Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 19 of the PowettPlay Podcast. I'm Jordan Shannon. I'm joined by my co-host, Kieran Powell. How are you, Kai?
I'm good, John. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I finally got it out in the end anyway. Um, you have landed in Trinidad. How is it?
Well, Trinidad is Trinidad, but conditions don't seem to be well, not don't seem to be. They're definitely not what they should be from a cricketing
No.
standpoint. Obviously, turning up to the ground today, expecting to have, I guess, an acclimatization session is what he can probably call these 2 days of practice before you go into
Yeah.
these regional matches. But the the pitch that we've been told that we're playing on, the entire square hasn't been touched for seems to be some time. It's just completely unprepared, and the practice pitches were actually even worse than that. So it's just sad to see that. I mean, I think there's supposed to be a minimum preparation time. I don't know if it's 7 days or 14 days for a first class match, but
Right.
to see things like this happening is crazy to me, because then you're expecting players to go and have averages in the 50s, 40s, whatever the case is
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
season. You're expecting bowlers to perform on pitches that, test them and test batters. And
Yeah.
so you can judge a player's performance properly, as opposed to playing on these types of pitches where it's just skewed in favor of the bowlers, and games will probably last, if a day, no more than
Yeah.
two on those types of pitches, just because it's completely underprepared, and it's 2 days out from competition. And this is, the tournament that is supposed to be preparing players for the next level, which is Test cricket. So it's not something that you'd expect
No.
or want to see.
No,
But
not at
it
all.
was, it was complete shock and surprise to us today. But here we are.
No. To everybody listening and watching, just to sort of back, obviously what Kieran's saying there. He sent me some pictures this morning, and you couldn't tell where the wicket would be pitched, basically. And I played league cricket for the past sort of 20 years, and as a player of I wouldn't expect to see that in league cricket. I couldn't believe it. I generally couldn't believe it. And the frustration that it must be for you, and the frustration for all the players, because like you're saying, this puts you in. This is obviously the next step for international cricket. So this is supposed to be, the frustration levels must be ridiculous, and it must also have an impact in a way of like mentality wise, where you think like, you know, it's you feel like shrugging your shoulders, like, come on, help us out. We as a great cricketing nation, we want to be competing, and by competing and getting to that next level, we need your help to be able to, to do the right thing and prepare a wicket to play cricket.
And it's even more than that. It's just basic facilities that we're
Yeah,
talking about here now. Look, you'd expect to have come 2 days out from a test match and seeing, like, the outlines of the pitch. You can start
yeah,
visualizing in your mind, okay, this is how I want to play, etc. You don't expect to come to a ground and see absolutely nothing. The grass not cut. I'm not even talking about on the pitch now, just on the field. And we're competing for, I guess, the championship at this point. We're in second position,
yeah, yeah,
and
100%, yeah,
it's important that you have proper facilities, because in order to win a competition, I mean, you need to maximize on things like batting points, bowling points, first innings points, etc., etc. You can't accumulate such things on surfaces like this, whereas other teams are going to go and play their round of matches and play on properly prepared pitches, and so teams will be able to score in excess of 300 and get extra batting points, get more bowling points, because you only get bowling points from fast bowlers getting wickets, as opposed to what we are apparently going to be playing on,
yeah,
which is going to be pretty much spin it to win it. And it won't even be much spin to win it. It's just bowl it straight.
yeah.
Someone's going to get up because the pitchers are going to do something adverse. So it's sad to see that, something like that has even happened, but
No.
fortunately that's the situation that we're in.
Why? I don't know. It might be a silly question. Why is the game being played in Trinidad? What's the reason for? Obviously, neither
Well,
of the sides are based there.
they've got games being played in multiple places. So right now, I think they're going to be 2 games in Antigua,
Yeah.
1 in Jamaica, and 2 in Trinidad, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it? No, I think it's 2 in Trinidad, 1 in Antigua, and 1 in Jamaica. So as to why the game is being played in Trinidad, I don't know.
Right.
If that's, I guess, availability of grounds or whatever the case is.
Right.
I'm not sure, however, that this venue is fit for this standard of cricket. I mean, we saw even in the Super 50 that something as simple as drainage, if rain falls, that games, and rain doesn't even have to fall for a long time. It could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but this particular outfield gets very waterlogged and there's not very good drainage there. I know that the Brian Lara Cricket Stadium is not, it's under preparation for the T20 World Cup. And so is another ground that they have here, a very beautiful ground. We absolutely love it, a ground called Diego Martin Sports Complex. So unfortunately, those two are not options. Obviously, Trinidad and Tobago being the home team and playing in Trinidad this week at the Queen's Park Oval. And so we've been left with Diego Martin. I'm not sure if it would be a possibility to move the game, for example, to maybe like something like Guyana, and that has multiple venues. Obviously, it's a bit short term, or maybe even postponing the game until, maybe at the back of the tournament, because we've got another 4 games left. So you could put it maybe at the end of what would have been our last game. You can have an additional week off, something to that nature. But I guess knowing how they operate, neither of those are sort of going to happen, and it's just going to be deemed as go and play, and whatever happens happens. So the guys, I guess, have to put themselves in a mental state to try and make something of the match, and obviously definitely try and win the match. But in terms of, I guess, points and that sort of stuff in the standings, it's definitely a situation where we will be hampered by that.
And have the Cricket West Indies been informed about the wicket?
Oh, that's definitely something I'm sure they'll know about now, because one of the first things that we did was to report it to our board.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure they've taken it up with Cricket West Indies. But again, as I said, I'm sure pretty much nothing's going to happen apart from them telling us to go and play, and whatever happens in the match happens in the match. So.
Well, I just hope that, from a perspective of what I've seen, I just hope it's from a safety perspective, everything goes okay, because you look at, you see some games and the way that they get the inconsistent bounce and stuff, and the last thing you want is someone getting injured off the back of some sort of lack of, for the wicket to get prepared. It's just it's silly. And like you were saying at the start of the conversation, you were talking about obviously you guys going for the title and win the championship, which is, you're in a prime position to go and do that. And it must just be a little bit demoralising to turn up and, you've had a bit of a break and lads have done whatever they've done, and you couldn't turn up and you're prepared to go and do your 2 days worth of practice. And then you're like, well, it's a proper kick in the teeth. And I suspect that, I know you mentioned last pod, or the pod before, you talking about obviously the young lads in the team and stuff and experience. I can't imagine many have been involved in a situation. Well, you've probably never been, involved in many situations like this either. So, I just hope it works out in a positive way where you can, finish the game and crack on to the next game and, close the door on this little issue, really.
I've seen many things. I've gone to a ground and maybe one pitch was underprepared, so they've shifted to another pitch on the square. But that again is where at least other pitches on the square was available, other pitches were prepared, etc. But I've never come to a ground 2 days out from a match and the entire square is unprepared. It's the first time I've ever seen that in my life at any level of cricket. So it's I guess you live and you learn, as the saying goes.
Yeah. Has anything been said from obviously the combined colleges and any of their side? Are they there yet?
They're here. They'd be at practice now.
Right.
So I'm not sure what they have to say about it, but interesting situation.
Yeah. Oh, it might be like that test match England played once at Sabina Park.
England once played a test match in Antigua that got shifted from Sir Richard Stadium back to the ARG because it was underprepared or something.
Just a shame. Like, it just is where like people probably don't see the knock-on effect it has for across the group of players and things, and even like from a perspective of bringing people through to play for the West Indies at Test cricket level, like it's a knock-on effect. It's supposed to be time at the crease, and I don't know. It's just a shame. How is your wrist or your arm?
It is what it is. It has to work. So I've just got to figure out a way now to. Well, I've figured out a way. I went to do some practice at Lord's last Thursday, So I've just got to manage it and just, I guess, strap it up and take the necessary painkillers or injections or whatever the case is, and should be okay.
Yeah.
Soldier through.
Well, yeah. I just couldn't believe it when I'm going to message you. I was like, "Oh, how's it going?" Yeah, I've just come back from Lords. I've hit a few balls. I'm thinking, just had a hit at Lords, like it was just a casual throwaway comment.
That's what I've been practicing for a number of years now. So I mean, there are a lot worse places in the world to have a hit than Lords, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're not going to be able to hit a few balls out there, are you, today and tomorrow? So. Oh God. Have you had much chance to watch any cricket recently?
I have been following the Australia-New Zealand series. Like I've watched pretty much every day of that test match that series. I think, to be fair, that's been a very good series.
Really competitive, hasn't it?
Yeah, the second match in particular, where New Zealand fought themselves back into the match with bat and then with ball, and that third evening picking up 4 wickets. But I mean, Australia being Australia, just found a way to keep themselves in the fight. I mean, it's just something that, as a cricketing country, I think obviously they're the gold standard. I think it's fair to say of cricketing nations. And they just managed to keep themselves in the fight and came out and found a way to win. And how many times has, for example, someone like Pat Cummins found himself in that situation and just continues to pull it out each and every time Australia need him to go in a tense situation like that and gets a 30 not out. Did it in Edgbaston in the Ashes. He's done it here again. Alex Carey, who's been underperforming for some time, comes out and scores 98 at a very rich rate. Mitch Marsh,
great now.
Again, has been in the runs for probably the past year and a half now, and pulled something out again. So it's just the identity of them as a cricketing nation that allows them to stay competitive, and especially in tough moments. World Cup finals, World Test Championships. They just know how to win.
Yeah, I think they just find it. They always seem to find a way.
Yeah,
and I think that's a sign of. I don't want to say great teams. I think they're a very, very, very good side, but I don't want to put them in that bracket of a great side just yet. Because I think that they're not far off. But I do think though that top sides, it always seems to find a way. And there's always somebody who gets that vital in it, scores that vital knock or that big partnership. And I think that's what this Australia side have got at the minute. There was a lot of pressure on. Saying that, I don't want to say a lot of pressure because Marnus Labuschagne has been, scored runs for years and years and years. But I suppose there had been a little bit of in a bit of a rut scoring runs, and I thought his 90 in the first innings were brilliant. And it took a world class catch to get rid of him from Glenn Phillips. But as a side, they just seem to be able to grind it out. And New Zealand has shown a lot of fight to get back into games and then put pressure on Australia and stuff. And I think this series is showing, what Test cricket is all about. It offers something for everyone from a batting perspective, from a bowling perspective. It's a really, really competitive series so far.
Yeah, it's been an amazing series. I think the only sad part that we can actually say is that it's just a two-test series.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Because you always know that the competition between Australia and New Zealand is going to be high, obviously big brother, little brother. And
yeah,
I think that it's a series that we need to see more of as well. I mean, I think it's the first time Australia have gone to New Zealand for something like 8 years, which definitely shouldn't be the case for any cricketing country that's 3-4 hours away from me. And I'm pretty sure that they'd love to find a way to play more often. And the cricketing world would love to see them play more often. Yeah, it's been a really exciting series. You look at New Zealand, obviously, Kane Williamson towards the end started coming on strongly as the player that we know him to be. Imagine if there were another test match or two that Kane can sort of get into his groove. You look at a Daryl Mitchell and a Rachin Ravindra, who's going to be an absolute superstar.
Yeah, he is.
The way that they batted in that big partnership, and Tom Latham as well, someone that's done it for New Zealand for a long time. So it's I guess sad that it's only a 2-match series, and I think that there should be a minimum of a 3-match test series, probably 3 or 5. For mine is how I'd like to see it, but very, very high standard of cricket on display over the course of those 2 test matches, and even the young fast bowlers that New Zealand had in O'Rourke and Sears over the 2 test matches bowled beautifully as well. So I mean, lots of high quality talent on display, new guys on the scene for international consumption. But as we said, the Aussies just time and time again just find a way to get it done.
Yeah, and I think that the 170, I think it was, that Cam Green got in the first test match in the first innings was a big thing as well, because he needed that. I know that we spoke before Christmas or just after Christmas about whether he fits in that lineup and he's 4 too high and stuff. So I think that he answered quite a few critics scoring that big score there. And that'll do him a world of good as well from a confidence perspective. And I think that the way that they're going at the minute, they are the World Test champions for a reason. And they're showing that. I know, obviously, I actually know this answer before. I don't even know why I'm asking you technically, but do you think they will manoeuvre Steve Smith anywhere else, or do you think they'll just let him ride it out opening the batting?
I think they should manoeuvre him. I'm not a fan of him opening. I think that he moves around probably a bit too much.
Right.
For an opening batter, you see when his end position after he triggers, he's ending up outside off stumps. So he's playing at a lot of balls that he shouldn't technically necessarily be playing at. And obviously, having scored as much runs as he has, he'll find a way if he chooses to stay as an opener. How successful that will be as opposed to what we know Steve Smith to be. Is, I guess, sort of the benchmarkings that we have for him. Because obviously he's set quite a high standard. I mean, he's failing at the moment, and his average is still 57. It's coming down, and his average is still at 57. So, I mean, that in itself tells you all that you need to know about the level or the standard that he set for himself and the heights that he's been able to achieve over a long period of time. I guess maybe what would be good as well is that I think Australia don't play another test match until next December. If I'm not mistaken, in this series. So there's a huge break. So he'll definitely have a lot of time to think and play around with a few things. And the way I look at it as well, I think that he's probably going to keep playing until that home Ashes series. So it's probably another 2 big home summers for
Yeah,
him,
yeah,
and he'll definitely tinker around with some stuff and get some stuff right. Now, that will be an interesting time for the Australian cricket team because I think Steve Smith and Usman Khawaja
yeah,
will probably end up after that series. So again, that's 2 of your most senior batters going out at that time, which is why they wanted to get Cam Green in to go along with Travis Head and Mitch Marsh,
yeah,
um, and sort of solidify that middle order, knowing that 2 of their senior players will be gone in sort of, you can't even look at it as 2 years time now because there's no cricket for them next year until December. So it's sort of a year and a half's time.
yeah,
In a year's time, from one December to the other when it comes around to the Ashes. So it'll be interesting. I think he'll convince himself and he'll find a way to, I guess,
well,
score runs, especially back in Australian conditions.
yeah,
Um, and having this amount of time can only do the world of good for him.
yeah. No, I totally agree with you. 'Cause I think that when we first spoke about it, about him going opening, we both said at the time that based on who he is and how he is, he will make it work. And I think that the way that they've now got with, especially with Cam Green scoring that 170 in the first test, it's sort of like where would obviously he would fit in anywhere in that. So it doesn't really matter. But I think with the balance of the side of what they're trying to achieve, they probably do want him to keep opening so they can keep Cam Green at 4, Travis Head at 5, etc. But I do think the break will, it's come at the right. It's probably come at the right time.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
and
break will be good for Manus as well at 3 because I mean obviously getting that score and going into a break now, he won't probably feel as though he
exactly,
needs to tinker around as much as
yeah,
he probably would have done. Mind
yeah,
you, if Steve Smith had to move back down into the order, it's not a matter of if someone had to move, it's someone would just have to
would
be
have
moved.
to. You just have to,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's as simple as that. So
yeah,
he has, I
exactly,
guess, the luxury of that much credit in the bank. But I think, as I said, he'll in this time off, which is over a year, he'll figure something out.
of course he will. They both, like I said, they I think it's worked really well for Marnus in the fact that, like I said, he had that score, so he can now have that break, but not be. I imagine him not obviously not knowing him in terms of from an overthinking it perspective. Whereas now he had that little, had that score, he'll probably settle down quite nicely now and have his break and come back, which that and obviously ages away, but that'll be a superb series at Australia and India.
Yeah,
Australia versus India, that'll be just because leading on to obviously the England. I don't know how to describe it. The England obviously test tour of India. We did well. We called it 5-0, but then obviously after a brilliant first test, England just seemed to capitulate. And I mentioned to you before the podcast started, I don't want to go on with myself because I feel like a complete broken record going over the same stuff over and over again. But
no,
I just
I'll
think
let you have a run. You just I'm the counselor at the moment. You just spill it all out.
I don't want to rant too much because I think you've made some really good comments about the batting side of things in terms of do they play that way because that's sort of their the skill it's what the skills can sort of go down that's the way they have to play sort of thing. But I'm just disappointed in the way. Well, one positive, I thought that there was a change of Joe Root after when he scored his ton. I think since then he's gone back to playing the way that he should play, in my opinion, and the way he does play in that when he's at his best. I think I think Johnny Bairstow getting his 100th test will probably be his last. I think that there's a potential for him, not whether what they decide to go down potentially with him. I just think I thought the way they batted in the second innings was just a bit of I don't know, just felt like they down tools a little bit, to be honest with you. And I understand sometimes going on tour can be hard and it can be, it can be tough, but I'm a firm believer in any profession that you should remain professional throughout it all. And I think that it just felt like they down tools a little bit. I've been really, really impressed with Troy Bashir. I think he's a real talent. And I know we touched on in our last podcast about him going out on loan. I think that that's going to be a really important thing for him to get some overs in and keep this momentum going because there's no way Somerset are going to play Jack Leach and him. So he's got to go out and get some overs, and hopefully that'll be We'll start to see something big from him. But another positive was obviously the fact that Ben Stokes bowled a little bit. So that's a nice positive going into the summer. But I just think that there's two things that, in my opinion, are going to happen this summer. One is the West Indies come over here and think, right, okay, we've got a chance. This side I won't say fragile, but they're going to give us something. They're going to give us chances with the way that they bat. If we can capitalise, I think there's a good opportunity. Or England do a demolition job of the West Indies, and all of a sudden they'll think that they're the best team in the world again, and they'll come crashing down again. I think I just want to see some stability and some thought process in terms of going forward. And I think that since I had seen some changes with the side, especially the way that Joe Root had batted, I thought Zach Crawley was promising. But again, I think the way he's been has been a little bit criminal, because I don't want to see my opener get to say 17, 18, keep getting out the way he keeps getting out. I want to see him get 150s and 160s. That's what I think will make us into a better side. But you're just smirking now.
Well, I mean, it sounds like baseball wasn't just test cricket; it's been testing its fans' patience. You're all talked out there. But no, I think it'd be interesting to see, because the talk that I've heard from the media is not that somebody like Johnny Bairstow will be dropped per se, but it's moving him back down to 7 and giving him the gloves and dropping
folks.
Ben Folks,
yeah,
which seems to, I mean, it doesn't even sound like a debate. It sounds like a surefire thing as to that's what's going to happen. So that's interesting in itself. But I mean, when you look at it in terms of the batting, obviously, I think that they probably realize now that there is some sort of middle ground between the way that they're going now and the way that they can be going, which can obviously be a little bit more reserved and, I guess, get better sustained results. You look at the shift that Root made.
Yeah,
I thought that Bairstow would have made that shift as well, but for whatever reason he didn't. I think Frawley has to play the way he does, which is fine. It gives the team a different dimension. And you look at the last 2 series he's had, being the Ashes and this Indian tour, both series getting over 400 runs and being England's best batter in both series. I mean, why would you ask him to change the way he plays? Obviously, I mean, it would be good if he can carry on some of those stats. And I'm sure over time he will do. Just being the nature of the game, you look at someone as great as Joe Root is, and there's a long period in time when he was guaranteed to get to 50 and also guaranteed to get out right after 50. And then just through time and experience and whatever the case is, he started to convert those scores again into hundreds and went on a spree, and I think got like maybe 10, 12 centuries in maybe a 2-year period, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm pretty sure Crawley will convert those stats. You look at someone like a Ben Duckett, I don't think that he really needs to do too much different. I mean, obviously, I don't think that India was going to be a strong place for him to begin with.
No.
So the fact that he got that 150 obviously would have helped his confidence, but he's someone that you look at and averaging 40, whatever he's averaging at the moment, he's a pretty good young player, in my opinion, that they should just allow to continue to play right at his time, because I mean his numbers are good. He gets centuries, he gets big centuries, and he pretty much contributes more often than not. That opening pair is probably the first opening pair that England can say that gives them this kind of start from Strauss and Cook. So I mean, any opener in Test cricket averaging above 40, especially as England haven't had that for a long time, just let him ride it out, because you look at his first class stats and it shows that he's someone that goes on to make big scores and make centuries quite often as well. So I wouldn't tamper with him too much. I think for me, England's, I guess, biggest issues would be sort of an Ollie Pope, who has played for quite some time now, and he always looks as though he's about to make that shift into, I guess, sort of an Ian Bell type player, but He
Yeah.
never really does. Or well, let's not say he never really does, but he hasn't fully as yet, which is quite an interesting situation from an England standpoint because
Mm.
batting in that number three position is obviously a crucial um,
Yeah.
person for them. So I think you look at him, um, Ben Stokes obviously didn't have a great series, and a
No.
Johnny Bairstow. And those are the areas that I would say that England would, if anything, look to freshen up or make some changes.
Yeah, I think the Ollie Pope one for me is interesting because I think he is somebody who you mentioned before. I think he is caught in between that aggressive slash,
Yeah.
um, you know, I don't say defensive, but in terms of that in between sort of position, because I've seen him play some really good innings, and then sometimes seen him getting out playing it, a bit too loose, and I think he is caught in between that both the styles of play, and I think that I think he needs a positive summer this year. He needs a big summer, and I think that again, this little bit of a break before the Test cricket resumes in June, July over here. He needs to figure that out, and I think that he needs that, to determine what his role is and how to go about his role at number three. Ben Stokes will be Ben Stokes. I think he will. He's a top player. Maybe Bairstow going down to seven, taking the gloves you know, will be the way to go potentially. But we'll have to see. But I wanted to touch on the Crawley thing though, because I, I appreciate I totally agree with what you're saying in terms of converting them. But how long would you give it, or how frustrated would you be if he was looking outside and he wasn't to convert them, or was to keep getting into 60s and 70s and not convert them?
Sorry, I just lost you for a bit there,
No, I was just saying, in terms of the Crawley situation, how how would you go about it if he wasn't to convert them? If he was to keep getting to 60s and 70s, would you obviously that he's scoring runs, so I suppose it's a positive, but would you still see that as an issue if he wasn't converting them into the big hundreds really at the top of the order?
Not, not necessarily. I mean, as I said, through time he will get some centuries and stuff. But he's averaging in the past two series above 40 as well,
Yeah,
leading run scoring those two series as well. So he's confident. He's not short of confidence.
no,
Like he knows, starting to feel as though he belongs at the international level. He can
yeah,
play at the international level. This is his style of play. And the most important thing is runs, and he's been
yeah,
scoring runs consistently. So through time, he'll get those scores, and he'll understand. Okay, this is what it takes for me to play this way and get
yeah,
centuries, and there'll be some element of consistency there as well because he's getting stats consistently,
yeah,
and then he'll understand how to convert the scores consistently. And I mean, if Zach Crawley walks away with 12, 15 test centuries, which England fan wouldn't be happy with that? I think he's
yeah.
already at
No,
three or four.
yeah, true.
Um, so I mean, he's not far from the numbers. You're talking about another 8 to 12 centuries throughout his career.
Yeah,
He's not far away. I mean, that could be literally two a summer. And happy
yeah,
days.
yeah. I think the plus thing as well for England is that Harry Brook will come back into the side. Uh,
Exactly.
so that'll be a big plus that. And then like that then gives the batting lineup some real strength in depth with Bairstow.
Correct.
Yeah, thinking about what you're saying about him taking the gloves. I was just thinking more when they were prior to this fifth test, they were saying about him potentially being dropped if it wasn't his 100th test, and obviously from a sentimental perspective. But I suppose, like I said, if he does take the gloves, it makes sense. But the English summer, which feels a million miles away right now, as you experienced last week. Um,
Never heard of it.
But it'll fly by that. And unfortunately, obviously, you guys might not get the preparation before coming over here because you're batting on well,
Mud.
yeah. I still couldn't believe that this morning when you. It's mad. It's mad.
Got
But
draw pitches in Manchester at the moment.
yeah, true. You want to see the back. You want to try batting on the back garden then the way it is at the minute. Anyway, thank you very much, and all the best for Wednesday. It starts on Wednesday, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All the best for Wednesday. I hope it miraculously changes over the next 48 hours and you batting on some form of highway.
Cheers, Jordan. We'll see what miracles happen in Trinidad.
No problem. Speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Bye.